Greetings on behalf of Friday.Waters, an initiative of the W4W Foundation, a think tank built as a citizens collective. We welcome you to today's session. Friday.Waters is a continuation of the signature series Wednesdays for Water. The idea of Friday.Waters is to bring water knowledge available in the various alternate forms at one place for developing a better understanding about the water matters in different possible ways. The activities initiated in Friday.Waters include Water Talkies, Water Reading Club, Water Thesis Club, and Water Arts. Each of these sessions take place once a month. The Friday.Waters sessions are designed to be fun-filled and yet be fruitful. Keep following us at www.w4w.in for regular updates. The focus of Water Talkies is on bringing the cast and crew of a movie, documentary, or video, etc., made on water matters to the session in order to discuss with them the making of the movie or the documentary or video and the issues around the subject covered. Besides bringing interest in water conversation, this will also increase the outreach of movies, documentaries, videos, etc. in the water networks and in society at large. Water Talkie session will also host dance, songs, and other live performances. Hello, my name is Monami Bhattacharya, and I'm the moderator for today's Water Talkie session. I'm joined by Dr Mansee Bal Bhargava as the discussant for today's Water Arts session. She is the founder-director of W4W Foundation and a transdisciplinary practitioner. Today, we have filmmaker Rakesh P Rao as a guest speaker to discuss the documentary, The Climate Challenge. A warm welcome to all of you. May I now invite Mansee ma'am to briefly introduce our speaker and take the conversation further.
Thanks, Monami. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, hi everyone, and welcome again to Friday.Waters. We are really running this show for more than 50 sessions now. And now we are coming to a very interesting session today on Friday.Water Talkies. And I would like to start with a very simple, I will say, statement as a layperson, that one thing is knowing about climate change because there's a lot of buzz about it. But another thing is to know how that knowledge or knowledge of climate change is gathered, documented, disseminated. That is the production of the science of climate change for the society. Because what we come to know comes very handy and easy to us as layperson. And that is where somehow I feel that we are not really taking it as much seriously, including our politicians, decision makers. As seriously we should be taking it out, as seriously the scientists are taking it. What we see in seconds and minutes actually takes hours and years to document and disseminate. And the film, The Climate Challenge, is one such film where we would see really a very short film of around 23 minutes, but I'm sure it has taken hours and hours. The film is dedicated to all scientists working in extreme environments in order to understand the impacts of climate change. And to do the honor, we have noted filmmaker, photographer Rakesh Rao. Rakesh is science enthusiast who specializes in documenting scientific expeditions and research initiatives. He extensively uses the medium of photography and films to communicate science. He's been involved in several projects and expeditions, and his work has taken him to all three cryospheric polar regions, Arctic, Antarctic, and the Himalayas, making him amongst the few documentary filmmakers to do so. His recent film, The Climate Change, won the Best Science Film Award at the International Science Film Festival of India and also at the 10th National Science Film Festival of India, along with several technical and excellence awards. And today we are going to discuss, and we will also find out why this film is so important. The film also won several other categories of awards, including many which we are going to post in the chat box. But Rakesh has been documenting several projects of national importance, including developing the official teaser of Chandrayaan-2 for ISRO, and Koina deep bore drilling project. He has also been publishing several books, magazine, and online platforms like National Geographic, Travelers, Sky and Telescope, Smart Photography, Better India, etc. Apart from the science and documentation work, he is also actively involved in creating awareness about climate change and also promoting science through filmmaking and photography, as we read in the beginning, to all kinds of stakeholders from school, colleges, and even public gatherings and public institutions. So today we are really privileged to have you, Rakesh. Thank you so much for being around. And as I understand and look through the film, you are really going to talk about the relationship of Arctic, Himalayan, Southern Ocean, as well as retracing it back to this whole polar ecosystem of the planet. So over to you, and I will ask you a few questions, and I open the floor for you to really take it up, especially with an important question. Why climate challenge and not climate change? Thanks, Rakesh. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mansi, first of all, for having me here. Thanks, Monami, also for introducing the event today, and for all the wonderful bio that you end up reading. I would rather just call myself, I don't know whether to call myself as a science filmmaker per se. I'm more of a science communicator, but I use the medium of films and photographs to communicate. It's been quite a journey, almost for 15 years, getting a chance to to travel to some of the most extreme places, hostile places, but yet some of the most beautiful places on this planet Earth. I do tend to call myself to be having the world's coolest job, not because it is, of course, it is cool, but my previous expedition has taken me to the coolest places, as in the coldest places. So I just always keep the pun of calling to be having the most coolest job. So coming to this film, I mean, the climate challenge and why it is not climate change. I mean, I'm sure everybody who is here today or watching us on YouTube also will agree with me that there are thousands and thousands of films on climate change. But people need to also realize the challenges when we talk about these changes. There are two aspects to this. One, climate change is happening. I mean, there is no denying to it, and it's going to definitely affect all of us. And it has already started affecting. I mean, I live in Goa, one of the most beautiful, smallest states. And we don't have winter concept over here. I'm actually wearing a t-shirt, but I'm wearing shorts below because it's very hot. But strikingly, yesterday night, it rained. It rained very heavily. We are in January, and it ended up raining here. And this is not even monsoons. I mean, there's so much of things that are happening. The other aspect of challenge when we talk about is that the film actually documents the role of scientists who actually brave the odds of traveling to some of the most extreme places, and sometimes the coldest, high altitude, and at the same time life-threatening situations that they faced, that you will see in the film, and we will also discuss about them, the challenges what they actually have to go through. So the film is actually dedicated to them, and hence it's the challenge of getting this data that we talk and tell people, and when they publish it and tell people that the climate change is happening, and hence I call it the climate challenge. Yeah. So
interesting, very interesting, because when I got to know that we are going to bring you in here in the show, I was really reading it few times. Climate change hai ki climate challenge hai? Am I reading it correctly or not? But your film really opens up issues of Arctic and highlighting issues around it, and also talks about its relationship even at an individual level. And you bring scientists as the protagonist in your film. So maybe it's a good idea to see a short snippet before we start talking about it. What do you think?
yes, of course. I mean, let me just share my screen, and I have a couple of short videos of the snippets of the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I and the screen viewable?
Yes, please go ahead.
So
Yeah.
this is the name of the film, and this is how the poster looks. So we haven't just made a film and just left it out. So the idea is also to disseminate information post even viewing the film. So we also have a dedicated website, which we're constantly updating with a lot of materials that people can actually read through, understand these expeditions, and at the same time understand the climate change issues. Let me play this one of the aspects of the Arctic, and then probably we can just talk about it.
The Arctic is warming faster than any other part of the world, and the evidences are now easily getting noticed here.
I'm very impressed by the changes. It's every year Since 2006, really, climate change is happening here very much. Until 2006, the people here could cross the fjord in winter to the other side. Every winter there was enough ice to walk over the ice. Since 2006, it hasn't happened anymore. So that's just, and it means that when the fjord is covered with ice, then the warm water can't go to the atmosphere. But when there's no ice, all the warm water goes to the atmosphere, the heat goes to the atmosphere, and also water vapor goes to the atmosphere. And that makes Arctic amplification, that makes it more temperature increase in the Arctic than everywhere else.
What happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. A recent study does indicate a strong teleconnection between the Arctic and the Indian monsoon. The rapid melting and retreating glaciers have been raising concerns about our future. These are not isolated phenomena that are seen only in the Arctic, but similar effects are being observed in one of the high-altitude cryospheric regions on the Earth, the Himalayas.
So, if you saw the snippet of just the Arctic, we do talk about, something called as Arctic amplification. I mean, it's pretty strange if you see what's happening to our planet. The average increase in temperature is somewhere between, 1 degree or so around the Earth. But when it goes to the Arctic, it's almost plus 4 degrees. And it's increasing very rapidly. And what is happening with this amplification? I mean, if you have heard the word there, and Martin Lunan, one of the most renowned scientists and a veteran Arctic researcher, who has been, coming every year to the Arctic region for almost like 40-45 years. He has seen climate change happening in front of his eyes. I was very fortunate of him being there at the time when I was there and could catch him and talk to him about it. So he makes a statement that the fjord or the channel where the station is, we have a station there called Himadri. Government of India runs a station out there. So the fjord in front of our station used to actually freeze during winter. It has stopped freezing now. I mean, this is all because the water is getting heated up. And what is amplification is basically you have the Arctic, the sea ice actually reflects all the incoming radiation from the sun. Now what has happened because of warming Arctic, the sea ice has disappeared. So the water is getting even hotter and it is melting the snow around, the sea ice around it even more faster. So we're losing rapidly the sea ice. And this is creating a lot of problems out there. So this is what Arctic amplification is getting amplified every now and then. So Arctic. When I was talking about a film and why it has been dedicated to scientists is also for a reason. If I just ask anyone, this is what we also do. We go to schools, colleges when we showcase it. So my first thing that I end up asking them is what comes to your mind when I say the word scientist? So everybody has this, stereotypical answer that, they wear lab coats,
Yes.
they have these glasses on and they mix chemicals. They're sitting in the lab. But here they are, facing some of the odds in some of the most extreme places with frostbitten nose, high altitude, doing all kinds of adventure stuff, rappelling, rock climbing at 19,000 feet. So the stereotype of, how we are stereotyped scientists needs to change. And that was also one of the reasons of doing this.
Very interesting, as you mentioned, that stereotyping of scientists, and yeah, I mean, for us and for any scientist, it is like big glasses and one microscope or telescope and a table inside the room. And this is where I think, as I was mentioning, one thing is managing the climate change itself, but another thing is managing the knowledge of climate change. And there's a hell lot of people who are engaged in it to bring those knowledge in a very condensed and crisp and in a language which we can understand as layperson and as politicians for that matter. And I'm sure you had a trailer experience of what it is to be there just for a few days and months, probably what they have been doing for years. You know, I saw some of the scientists who have really lived their whole life in this kind of status. So please share some of your challenges and experience of documenting the films. First of all, in that context, like when there was probably some full ice because you have been doing it for many years. And now when there is more water than ice and snow, and how it is and what are their concerns. And I mean, through the film, we see that they are really digging snow to get their camp back and all those kind of things. And we have a station, as you mentioned, also in the Arctic, as Himadri you mentioned, but we also have station in our own Himalayas. So please share.
So let me share one very interesting thing, what happens in the Arctic. Probably I'll play this and then we can just talk about it.
Here, in Neolazin, scientists are noticing patterns of rapid thawing of these permafrost regions. In order to reach the study area, precautions are taken by mandatorily carrying a rifle while leaving the settlement, as a preventative measure against any encounter with polar bears.
So if you saw the thing, what's interesting about it is that generally when we talk about scientists, or for that matter, even myself as a filmmaker, we have our equipments and the scientists have their gears, all the instruments that they use it to document and get data. And we as filmmakers, we have our cameras and all. But there, apart from all of this, we had to also carry with us, it was mandated that we get a rifle training. And every time we venture out of our, the village that we were living in, we had to compulsorily carry a flare gun and a rifle. And it's not that you just reach there and you get a rifle in the hand. So you have to compulsorily undergo a training, which will be there for an entire day, wherein you have theory as well as practicals. You have to go to a range and shoot. And this is has become extremely important in the last couple of years, is because polar bears have started now, encroaching, or for that matter, I should not be using this. It's not the polar bear, it's humans who have now started encroaching the polar bear. There's a lot of human polar bear animal conflict which is happening. And because of climate change, polar bears are not getting the sea ice is, there's tremendous loss of sea ice, and polar bears are not getting easy food, or they can't hunt. So what they're doing, the polar bears are doing, they started venturing into human habitation, because it becomes easier for them to get food and things of that sort. And especially a person like me, I think if a polar bear would see me, I think it would have had a very good healthy meal for at least a month, because I am a chubby. So it was very important that you carry a rifle with us, and we get trained. And I still remember the trainer who told us, he told us one thing: you cannot outrun a polar bear, because when a polar bear runs, they run very fast. So it is a rule in the Arctic that whenever you venture out, you always have to go as a buddy system. I mean, there'll always be two people. You never venture out alone. So the trainer always, and I still remember this, because he tells this, that you can never outrun a polar bear, but if you want to survive, just remember you have to outrun your buddy. So that if you want to stay alive, you need to outrun your buddy. So these are the things. And also, once you see a polar bear, or you have a polar bear encounter, it's not that you remove your rifle and you shoot.
Of course.
There are a lot of protocols that you need to maintain. First, you need to try and evade the direction. If they're moving towards you, if you can't do anything, then you use a flare gun. You shoot it in the air. The flare also makes a sound when it explodes. and you have a flare. So generally the tendency is that polar bear will never come because of this thing, but there has been extreme encounters. And if you don't have any option, then only you use your gun. I mean, you use the rifle to shoot. And by chance, if you end up shooting for pleasure, there's a case that comes up on you, and a lot of things. So it's very odd, whenever you take a photograph of a scientist out there, you'll see them with a gun or with a rifle. A scientist has never seen.
And
It's
then
like a
we will
decoy.
imagine what are they doing there.
Exactly. I mean, whenever I show these photographs, the first question which comes to people's mind is, why is he carrying a rifle? He's there as a scientist. So these are some of the challenges that a scientist faces when they are in the Arctic. So
let me, very interesting observation. I mean, we would never imagine a scientist with, with guns instead of telescope and microscope, which is a general impression of scientists in amongst children and amongst a naive person and lay person like me. So thanks for this clarification that scientists are actually on the ground as well before they come to the lab for their tests, which these scientists are also doing, because you talked about Himadri and how they have a station where they're actually keeping their, biological samples and all those. I'm just not remembering the name of the station in Himalaya.
So I'll probably show you a video.
Okay, let me just come to that then, because we often hear this that snow and ice is melting in the poles and all, and I'm just sitting at home and I'm thinking, so what? It's not affecting my life every day. Then now we have started hearing about Himalayas. We have snow melting and there are more avalanches. There is more water flowing through it. And still I'm thinking, sitting very complacently in my mainland and thinking, so what? But when I get a little flood in my own city and I'm like, okay, there is climate change. But I would like to understand from you, because you are going to the two extreme poles of the planet, and then you come to the Himalaya right in the center of the planet, I must say. Being Indian, we are very proud to have it right there.
Yeah.
How, as a lay person, I'm going to link these three things?
Yeah. So the climate change, I mean, people have this notion, Arctic is melting and Arctic is having issue. Antarctica is also having a similar issue, which we'll discuss down the line. And these two are at two extreme ends. And we sitting in the tropics, why should we even care? If it melts, or whatever it is. But that's not the case. I mean, Himalaya, for that matter, Himalaya, apart from the beauty of the mountains and things of that sort, it's also called as the water tower of Asia. The reason why is it called the water tower of Asia is because there are more than a designated 56,000 glaciers, right from the the Afghan, the Hindu Kush, all the way to the Himalaya side. And India itself has more than close to around 10,000 glaciers. And these glaciers are extremely important because they are the ones that are 11 major rivers, which run in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan and other places. All the water comes from these glaciers. And after Arctic and Antarctic, it's the Himalaya which is having the highest concentration of fresh water. And that's the reason it is called also as the third pole. It's third cryospheric pole. Like we have the polar regions, the Arctic and Antarctic, the cryospheric regions, and Himalayas is also called as the third pole. Let me show you a video of it in the film, and then probably I'll talk more about it.
The majestic land of tall mountains and glaciers is currently one of the world's most sensitive hotspots to global climate change. A new report suggests that at least a third of the Himalayan glaciers are expected to melt by the end of this century. A situation that is predicted to intensify in the coming years, with dire and far-reaching consequences on availability of water, food, and energy. All the major North Indian rivers owe their origin to thousands of glaciers in the Himalayan region. Nearly 1.5 billion population depend directly on these rivers. According to the latest glacier inventory, there are about 9,575 glaciers in the Indian Himalayan region. With changing climate, there are empirical evidences of how the melting of these glaciers are affecting both regional as well as global climate.
So, yeah, I mean, this is just a small introduction to Himalaya in the film. What I will also do is probably I'll also share another video and then probably talk on both of it.
Situated at an elevation.
Sorry, 1 second. Could you hear the audio?
Yes, we could hear, but we didn't see. Huh? So.
1 second. Huh?
Yeah.
Situated at an elevation of around 4,000 meters, this proglacial lake is a potential candidate for a glacial lake outburst flow event. Over the last 4 decades, the studies have indicated that the volume of the lake has increased by over 20 times. Proper monitoring and management of such glacial lakes across the Himalayas are now essential to prevent calamities, considering its close proximity to civilization downstream.
So, why are Himalayas so important? There are 2 aspects again.
Yeah.
One is because 1.3 billion population, not just in India, the Gangetic plain, people who live across the Ganges and Brahmaputra and all the other 11 major rivers, 1.3 billion population. That's like almost 20% of the globe, living across India, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, Pakistan for that matter. All of them depend on these Himalayan glaciers for not just for water, but also because of the water, there's a lot of livelihood, whether it's fishing, whether it's agriculture and things of that sort. Everything depends on water. What is shocking is that there was a report published by IC-MOD, based out an institute based out on Nepal, but who looks after the Himalayan region, that by 2100, that's hardly 75 years from now, we can expect anywhere between one third to 2/3 of Himalayan glaciers to completely disappear. Initially, you'll have a lot of water because these glaciers are going to melt and it's going to flood, and people are going to be extremely happy that we have a lot of water for cultivation. But then it's just like your overhead tank; it's going to dry out very fast. And when it dries out, there'll be drought-like situations. Today, I don't know if I'm making a very bold statement out here. Today, India and Pakistan are fighting for a piece of land called Kashmir. Tomorrow, I'm sure both of these countries might not care much about Kashmir, but probably it will be the water, because we do have an industry and we can divert the water to protect our own self-interest and things of that sort. So the wars tomorrow will be fought not for the land, but it's going to be fought for the water. And this is extremely scary situation. I mean, it's going to happen in our lifetime, or my kids' lifetime, or things of that sort. These crises are just going to increase, and it's just not the scarcity of water that's a major concern. If you see the second video that I showed of something called as a GLOF event, a GLOF is nothing but as a glacial lake outburst flow event. I'm sure everybody in India here would remember what happened in Kedarnath. The tragedy of Kedarnath. That's a kind of a GLOF event, but it was triggered by a cloudburst. But even recently, there were 2 places in the Himachal where we had this huge dam getting collapsed because of GLOF event.
And the Tista also.
Yeah. The Tista River. Exactly. I was not remembering that, the Tista River. It was all because of a GLOF event. And it's going to happen very often now, because what is happening is many of these glacial areas, they end up making something called as a pro-glacial lake. So whenever these glaciers melt, they end up the water remains, and the glaciers has their own geography, I mean geology for that matter. So when they retreat, they leave a kind of a natural dam that gets built up, and the water stays
Like
there.
a crater. It's
Like a crater, yeah. The
Yeah.
water goes on filling up, the pressure builds up,
Yeah.
and all the trans-Himalayan regions are active volcanic zone. I mean, earthquake zone. Sorry, not a volcanic. It's earthquake zone. And for that matter, whenever you have a sudden burst of temperature increase and these calving of these glaciers, so suddenly you have a ripple effect. If this dam just breaks off, the natural dam, all that water which was collected is just going to run off downstream, and it's not just going to run off just like a regular tap or something like that. It's just going to just explode, and it's just going to come down, and the villages downstream is just going to get inundated by these things. So it's very important that we monitor these things. So the center which we normally end up documenting with, that's the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, are
Yes.
monitoring 6 benchmark glaciers in the Lahaul and Spiti regions. It has been noticed that all the glaciers in the Himalaya, majority of the glaciers, in fact, are all retreating. So we are all losing these glaciers. There is no denying of this fact. In fact, I just saw an image tweeted by another friend of mine from Ladakh, that it's January and there's been hardly snowfall in Ladakh. So if there is no snowfall, the glaciers will not replenish, and it's not going to happen. So these are all telltale signs of extreme events and climate change that's there.
Yeah,
So,
very interesting point you raised, huh? But I'm still thinking as a lay person, Rakesh, I must say, because these are big scale issues, you know. But of course, people living in the Gangetic Plains, people living in the highlands, they are facing it on daily basis. And I mean, I must tell you that in our Wednesday sessions, we already had sessions on Tista tragedy which recently happened. And in fact, this Wednesday, just day before yesterday, we had Ajit Patnaik sir, and he was talking about mainland wetlands. And a gentleman from Nagaland on the highlands, he actually raised this issue that how can we have lakes and ponds and wetland policy uniform for the entire country and not have different for the highlands, midlands, and the lowlands, you know. And I mean, and it is such a pertinent question because we cannot think about a wetland like Chilka same as looking at a wetland or a lake in the highlands, because they are completely, even for that matter, rivers. We have to go far in that direction. But I would like to bring our conversation back to the documentary and also the works of scientists which we have been working on, and
no,
you have been really looking at. You
I
would
mean,
say
you
something.
do make a very pertinent issue. I mean, if you see what happened in Manali and Kullu Manali just recently,
Yeah,
it
oh my God, it
is
was
not some
scary.
5 years back or something. It just happened. In fact, I was in
Yeah.
Chandigarh and I was on the way to Spiti,
Mm-hmm.
and we just had to U-turn our vehicle and come back, and I had to fly back to Goa because I could not move ahead because of all the roads were destroyed and because of
Yes.
sudden outburst of rains and things of that sort. And what's sad is if you see the amount of the construction which has come out
Yes.
on the river banks. I mean, this is common sense. This is not even you don't even have to, it's not quantum mechanics
Need a big science
or
for it.
this thing
You
or
don't
something
need a
like
big
that.
science.
It's just logical. I mean, the rivers are,
But
there's a reason why. But yeah,
I
so
can go on and on talking about it,
yeah.
to be honest,
I
but I'm
know.
not the speaker today because we are seeing our water bodies as piece of land. Unfortunately, the
Yeah,
whole political system and developers, and even us for that matter, if I'm going and buying something there, I'm also seeing it,
yeah,
the water body as a piece of land.
yeah,
And that's the irony with water
yeah,
systems, that
absolutely.
we are only looking at the land, but not the water. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, because I do research in this area, our water bodies even are monetarily valued as piece of land. There is no value attached to the water on that land.
Okay.
So when we talk about wetland, basically rivers, lakes, and ponds, the value of that wetland is based on the area of land, just like you buying a property for a house or an institution. And that's the irony, part of looking at water bodies. But let me come back to the film itself, because I want to go back again to the whole discussion from, Himalaya, and talking about the planet having so much of water. See, on one hand, we are talking about water crisis, and those who work in the climate change, they are aware that climate change is both manifested through flood as well as drought. It's not one or either of it. And to add to it, then there is more governance issue when we can talk about asymmetric distribution of access to water, and that's by class, caste, infrastructure system, and so on. But even if we just stick to the flood and drought part of the climate change, where no governance, let's say we all are equality and equity loving society, I still get confused as a layperson. So pardon me, because I have to play the role of devil's advocate as a discussant for this platform.
Sure.
If we have so much of water on the planet, and I mean, what kind of effect we are envisaging in case of climate change impact, which is really coming on us? It is there. I mean, you already mentioned about Goa. I see in Ahmedabad, just half an hour rain, 1 hour rain, the city is flooding like hell. So what kind of adverse? And now we saw Chennai just recent, many places for that matter. What are scientists in those extreme conditions talking? What are they concerned about? What did you hear from them, Rakesh?
See, I will. I mean, see, we are seeing this manifestations happening, and these
Yes.
are just not visual evidences, but at the
Yes.
same time, there are well documented proofs. I
Yes.
mean, published papers. It's not that, I saw it and I drew it and I came back. These are
Yes.
well researched papers that are talking about all these pertinent issues and things of that sort. Scientists have been saying it. It's just that they are. I sometimes I should not be saying this because I do work with them a lot, but I sometimes really feel that scientists have to be more vocal and just not
They have
vocal,
to be
and
activist
they
as
have
well,
to
I
be
think.
absolutely. I mean, they. It's just not about publishing papers.
Mm.
Sometimes the communication needs to be told, and told very effectively, that the policy makers, the stakeholders, the industries, or people around, they should understand what's happening. I mean, the perfect example when scientists became vocal were at the time when we saw the crisis of COVID,
Yeah.
right? During COVID, suddenly, I mean, overnight,
Scientists
first
were
time,
heard.
everybody started washing hands, everybody started using sanitizers, everybody started wearing a mask. I mean, it was not that you had to put up a policy statement and things of that sort. Scientists were vocal, people understood, and when they suffered it, they realized that I have to do this. Now, climate change, for that matter, everybody is suffering, but at the same time, everyone is becoming resilient to this thing. They are trying. Okay, it's hot today, I'll put in an AC. I'll put on an air condition thing. Oh, it's becoming even hot. I have money now. I'll, instead of 1 ton AC, I will invest in a two ton AC. I mean, I will try and find solutions to mitigate or being more climate resilient, rather than the
Preventive.
industries are selling these products,
Yes.
and they're finding solutions to make our life so-called better, but it's going to turn into a living hell down the line.
Yes.
So somewhere this thing needs to be, people need to understand this, and this is going to happen only through awareness,
Yeah.
and just not awareness, just by shouting out on platform is one part, but then people then even, I mean, you see what is happening around the country also, not just country, around the world. People do end up raising these issues, but they think that it's only activism, or they are just shouting because they have to shout. But somewhere we need some kind of a structural changes. And having said that, I need to stop blaming the government for everything. It's an individual's responsibility also to understand. We are becoming so much of consumeristic approach nowadays, where we need everything. We need the latest iPhones, we need the latest televisions, we need everything which is there. So somewhere, we unless we change our attitude probably will reflect in the economy and then the government's attitude down the line. It has to be
We are government. That
we
way.
are government, exactly, government is us. So somewhere this role needs to be played, and I do hope scientists become more and more vocal down the line and they should not start speaking when it is already too late. People think climate change is reversible, but no, it's not. We are facing a lot of issues because of it, and it's just going to go worse.
Just reflecting upon when I started my career nearly 3 decades ago, we started learning from sustainable development goals. And I think that was the first bell which was put to the world that something has to be done for the environment or health of the planet. But you raised a very pertinent point, and scientists have to be more vocal. And in those kind of situations, works like what you have done comes out very handy. But at the same time, the challenge is that, when layperson and naive people like me or general audience who watches documentaries and films, we watch it very, very candidly, and then we just move on. It's a business as usual because we watched a beautiful film. That's a thin line between having a good film and having a good essay. And I mean, I have been also talking about of late in my own career that we need transdisciplinary scholars who can translate hard science into soft language.
Absolutely.
And who can make the voice of scientists, who are soft people, by the way, in my opinion, and the science and the voice of the society, make it hard to be listened by the decision makers. And by the way, our country is short of transdisciplinary scholars because they don't find job in this country. So that's a different problem altogether.
Yeah, we can talk about it at length.
We can talk about it some other time, but I would really like to go back to this whole relationship of mountains, oceans, and climate change. And how do you see that anything happening in Himalaya is also going to affect the ocean and is also going to affect the
But before that, I would like to tell you some of the challenges that scientists actually face when they are actually high up in the altitude. People don't see this side of scientists. Let me just play the short video, and then probably it will get clearer.
Understanding the impact of climate change in the Himalayas isn't just challenging, but also extremely difficult, owing to these highly undulating and unforgiving terrains and abruptly changing weather phenomena. During a regular monitoring visit to Bara Shigri Glacier, the team gets trapped in an intense snowstorm and loses contact with the base camp.
This is also your opening part, huh?
Yeah.
5 days of battling the extreme weather and snowfall, team finally manages to return to a safe place from where they were evacuated.
So people generally end up thinking, Himalayas, it's beautiful mountains, and scientists go and get data. But the challenges are extreme. I mean, I remember we luckily got out of the situation. I had just finished the 3 glaciers, and we had just reached Manali. And I was on my way back when we had this tremendous amount of rainfall that happened again in Manali. This was 3 years back. But one more team which was there in one of these glaciers, they got stuck with extreme snowfall. And snowfall to a length that they thought that it might stop after half an hour or 1 hour, but it went on for 5 days. And 5 days you're staying in that tent, far off, cut off from communication, extreme cold, extreme weather, less food, and you have constant snowfall. So every half an hour you have to go out, and whatever shovel, the plates, if you saw the thing, we were just using plates and just trying to so that the tent doesn't collapse. So they were doing that, and after 5 days they finally managed to walk down. 2 of our support staff, the porters, they suffered from snow blindness because of extreme so all these things, and we have had so many falls. In fact, I remember one of the glaciers, I mean, this film could have not been made because we kind of survived the thing. One of my another crew member, he picked up his bag and he left, and we had our main gears, 2 cameras and a laptop and the hard drive. And I was also carrying one laptop, a drone, and another set of hard drive. So this guy, and it's an extreme vertical climb of almost 60-70 degrees climb. So he got tired on reaching on top. He just removed his bag, kept it aside, removed the front bag, kept it on side, and he was just drinking water. The bag that he had kept with the equipment lost balance, and it just rolled down almost 100 meters with all our equipments and gear. I mean, I actually saw it happen, and I thought I should jump off from here itself.
Imagine that.
I mean, and when we managed to recover the bag, but the cameras were broken. The laptop had a crack, but luckily I had a backup with me of all the months long of shoot that we had done. So it survived, and we had one more camera with us, so we could manage to go there and complete the shoot and come back. So these are some of the challenges, or what do you call that? Troubles that we end up doing. I mean, not only for scientists but even for filmmakers. When we follow these scientists, it's adventurous, it's challenging. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all have seen scientists actually being on one rope to another rope, trying to doing
I
rock
was
climbing
about
and
to say,
rappelling
these
around,
scientists are
and these
expeditioners, and they are doing science, they are doing lab work. I'm sure they are cooking for themselves, they are washing their
of course,
clothes,
of
and they are writing papers as well. So this
I mean, people do also, because now that I've done majority of expeditions to Antarctic, Arctic, and the Himalayas and Southern Ocean, people do ask me, I mean, which has been the most challenging of all these expeditions. So I do end up saying like Arctic is here, Antarctic is here, I mean, in terms of challenges, whereas Himalayas is out of the roof. The reason I say this is because Arctic, it's the cold which might kill you.
yeah.
Antarctica, it's the cold and the isolation of being away from the civilization. The closest civilization for us is Cape Town, which is like 6,000 kilometers away.
1,000, yeah.
Yeah. So, but Himalaya, it's the cold, it's the isolation, and what can kill us the maximum there is the altitude.
Yes, I was about to say the
At 17,
reality of
18,000, 19,000 feet, being up there when you are, almost 50% above the Earth's atmosphere, the oxygen is less. Surviving there it's just not a task. I mean, and we had to go there to camp on the glacier, because they're monitoring these glaciers by doing a lot of measurements at different parts, right from the snot area where the glacier starts, all the way to the accumulation zone. So that's right on top of the mountain. So we had to literally put our tents on these glaciers. It was like, if somebody asked me how would a dead body feel when it has been kept in a morgue kind of thing. If
yes,
you want to experience it being alive, then come with me next time. I'll take you to the Himalayas.
it's
When we are
scary
in
to hear
the
itself.
when we're just in the sleeping bag and we're sleeping in these tents, and the floor is ice. It's all ice. It's
Yeah.
all frozen glacial ice. It's all cold and everything. And being there, your daily routines of just getting up. There's, although it is you're actually on a source of water, but there's no drinking water.
There is no
You
water.
have to pick up the snow and melt it just to brush your teeth and doing your shows or whatever it is. For cooking, we had to literally get snow, melt it, then make your food. It's a challenge. I mean, and all these challenges are taken not just by filmmakers per se, but scientists, and they have been doing it. We go there only for 1 time or 2 time max.
Yeah, I was about to say, you just got
Every
the
year.
trailer of it.
Yeah. Every year they just keep going and monitoring it and seeing it.
Through your film, one thing is for sure, at least if more and more people are watching it, and more and more people watch it in future, at least our perception of scientists has to change.
Absolutely.
And the hardship they go through to bring science to us, which looks so so easy for us to read or watch through film, but making it and bringing that science to us, and probably because we don't go through that hardship, we also don't get that seriousness of it. Because for me, climate change is distant, until and unless I feel the flood right in front of my house. I mean, so even if they are trumpeting to their loudest of the sound, that possible that there is climate change, please do something. Despite their hard work, if we are not really taking them seriously, we are also bringing problem to the whole humanity, which is also raised in your film as well. But let me just understand from you, when these scientists are making these science and they see things are moving very slow in terms of decision making, in terms of preventive measures, in terms of adaptation, what kind of, message they would like to bring to us? Because I think after watching this film, I mean, I myself get a lot of rejections, even though I'm a ground level worker practitioner. When we want to show something that water management is people management, it is as simple as that. When I'm going to projects and asking people, so if we have to do anything on water, please don't spend money on water, but spend money on people. That's what I have been advocating, because we have to bring change in people's behavior. We don't need to bring change in the water system. These lakes, lake fronts, river fronts, ocean fronts, we don't need them. We need change. So if people like us who have been complacently doing research, we are not heard of, and very simple measures, how will politicians, decision makers, common people are going to even comprehend a massive scale of observation like climate change? What kind of message the scientists would like to bring through you, through this film, so that we can start talking about it. Let us at least take our scientists more seriously, because scientists are in every other house where, and they are going there. So even if we want to look at science more seriously, we have to start with looking at scientists more seriously. I feel, I mean, I strongly feel on that.
Absolutely. I mean, that is where the roles of films and photographs and awareness comes in. Reading a published paper which a scientist puts up might not be as exciting or as informative to a person who is not from that particular background than watching a film. A film can, convey a lot of things just by its visual. It has its own visual narrative, right? Which can be easily told, and people tend to connect with the film by visuals. We are more of a visually accepting.
And laypersons understand it much faster.
We talk about, for that matter, even in the Arctic, for that matter. I mean, we talk about plastic issue and things of that sort. There is a published paper by an Alfred Wegener Institute from Germany that one of the remotest places in the Arctic, what they did is they took 1 liter of snow from the sea ice thing. And when they filtered it, they found close to 12,000 pieces of microplastics.
Oh my God.
This is, I'm talking about 82 degrees north, where there is no civilization existing. There is nobody, no human habitation, nobody out there going and throwing it. There's a paper which is published. Then with that, there was also a photograph which they showed these microplastics. Now, I might read an entire paper and talk about the issue, but that one photograph was enough to hit me. To hit me as a person to understand that plastics are creating a lot of issues.
Ocean is full of plastic, and it is already anticipated that by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean.
Absolutely, I mean,
which is scary.
There was a very beautiful cartoon. I'm just taking some more time. There was a very beautiful cartoon published in one of the local daily newspaper. It's of a man who goes to a fisherwoman in the market and goes to buy a fish. The fisherwoman just gives him just a fish. So the man says, can you please put it in a plastic bag and give? To which the fisherwoman says, sir, don't worry, there's already enough of plastic within it. So, I mean, it was beautifully depicted as a cartoon. I mean, it is very hilarious to see it, but then it impacts you. When you see it, that's the power of visual media. I mean, for that matter. And I just hope one way for scientists to be more this thing is not only just to publish papers, but also to tell your stories through visual narrative. And probably I don't blame them because it is not their forte. It's like if you ask me to dance, I might dance, but people might not,
Yes.
I mean, appreciate my dance format.
Yes.
So it's just like that. So that's why that shyness is there. Probably people like you, me, and a lot of us who are
Yes.
into this media need to communicate with the scientist, understand the research, and get it down to a level which
Yes.
is palatable
Absolutely.
to the masses. I mean,
Yes.
this is
That's
something
yes.
where a
Very well said.
majority of focus has to be.
Very well said. And that's where I feel the role of transdisciplinary
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who can connect both science and societal language comes very handy. So that brings me to the last question to you, Rakesh. I have been grilling you almost like a, you know,
I'm
Aam
everyone.
Janta. But and then I would like to definitely open the floor because I see some
Sure.
good points made by Jack O'Sullivan. So I'll invite him.
Sure.
What will be your take-home message for, especially for youth who are going to be decision makers, for women who are not part of the decision makers, and your fellow filmmakers for this kind of work?
That's a very interesting question. Probably, I'll just answer that. I just have another two videos that I would want to show
Sure, please
of
go
the
ahead.
Southern Ocean.
Go ahead.
Because I don't want to end the thrill of just only the Arctic and Himalayas, but also talk about ocean.
Yes.
Ocean is something which is extremely important. Why I say this, I'll just tell you once I show this video. I'll play the video back to back so
Sure.
that.
Southern Ocean has an immense influence on the Earth's climatic system. This ocean encompasses the Antarctic continent and connects the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. It stores and transports more heat and carbon dioxide than any other latitudinal band on Earth. Large amounts of carbon dioxide is locked away in the cold bottom waters of the ocean than in the atmosphere. During the last several decades, this part of the ocean is witnessing some drastic consequences due to the increase in ocean acidification. Scientists are also noticing a warming trend in these deep waters that store large amounts of carbon by acting as a carbon sink.
I'll also show you another one before.
The team has now started the return leg. Sighting of icebergs has now reduced, and the water is no longer calm. As the research vessel heads back, the captain gets updates of an approaching cyclonic storm.
Wow.
While he charts a course to avoid the storm, the weather packs in. The team is put on high alert and is advised to stay indoors. All scientific operations are now put on hold. After almost 2 days of intense rolling and pitching, the storm has now subsided.
So these are the problems of Southern Ocean and the challenges that when you're there in as a part of these ocean expedition, one has to go through. I mean, there's this very famous quote, people say, it's not the destination, it is the journey that matters. But I will not say the same about the Southern Ocean.
Can imagine that.
Because the journey is horrific, whereas the destination is very beautiful. Because Southern Ocean is one of the most roughest and the most violent oceans on this planet. In fact, sailors have a very interesting nicknames given to different latitudinal bands. So you have something called as rolling 40s.
Oh my
Rolling
God, it's
40s.
like a music.
Yeah, I mean, it's called the rolling 40s, furious 50s, and screaming 60s.
Oh my God.
So, so the ship, which normally sails from Cape Town or Mauritius, wherever, which goes like this, suddenly starts doing this.
Uh-huh.
And I remember my room was on the fourth floor,
Uh-huh.
about the ship deck. I had water splashing all the way up till there,
Oh my
during
God.
one of the worst possible rolling and pitching. And in all of this, when there's so much of rolling pitching happening, scientists are there out there on the deck, putting their instruments and getting the
Instruments, yes,
data
and
and getting the
collecting.
thing. So it's a different feeling. I mean, spending 2 months surrounded by the ocean, and just you're just floating. We had a lot of issues. Also, the ship had a lot of issues. There was a time when we wanted to call for rescue and things of that sort. So I mean, these dramas are there. That's part of every expedition. But having said that, ocean is the most important thing for us on this planet. I mean, people think
Absolutely.
we call it the Earth or the Terra planet or whatever it might be, but I mean, people tend to forget that 70% of our planet is ocean.
Is ocean.
And people also don't realize this, that every second breath we take, like this is my first
Yes,
one.
it's coming
The
from,
second
the
breath, it's
oxygen is
coming from
coming
the
from
ocean.
there. Yes,
50% of oxygen is coming from the oceans.
ocean.
People think it's only about planting trees. Okay,
Yes,
Vanamotsav comes.
yes, I
On the
can
day of
totally
Vanamotsav, you'll
relate
see
with
all
what
the
you're saying.
politicians, for that matter, or everybody, all the people, they'll come, they'll plant a tree and then not care about it. But 50% of our oxygen is produced in the ocean. And what we are doing is we're just creating more and more problems by adding more carbon dioxide, which is getting sequestrated into the ocean. And as the ocean takes in more carbon, it is getting acidic. So
Mhm.
what happens is you have carbon mixing with water, it's becoming into carbonic acids. And
Mhm.
these acids are actually, killing the organisms which depend on carbonate. I mean, like whether it is, your corals or your
Yes,
molasses or anything. So all that carbonate is getting dissolved. So there are tremendous amount of issues that the ocean is facing. And since it is so large, and its repercussions are not seen so
it's
evidently
just that
as of
we are
now,
so
we don't
minuscule.
care it. And
We are so minuscule.
exactly, and that's the reason we don't care about it.
We are in tragedy of the common state. I mean, what Hardin said long time ago, to be honest.
I mean, for me, if people in the north might have issues with Himalayas, for me, being in Goa, I live on a coastal state. I mean, the beach is just a kilometer away. My daughter's school is just next to the beach. I can forcefully think down the line, probably 100 years from now, we'll have the sea level rising up, the water already coming in. But for me, it is 100 years down the line. I might think that, oh, it's okay. My daughter would
That's
have passed
exactly
out and
happening
gone.
with
And
politicians.
if you see
We
what's
just
happening,
moved India's target to 2070 because
yeah,
it's distant.
I mean, if you see, I mean, the point that I was making was that now, for instance, just to take me as an example, my daughter's school is just a kilometer away. I mean, it's right on the coast. According to predictions or whatever it is, 100 years down the line, we'll have the inundation of the coastline happening. Her school might be underwater in 100 years from now. I will not care much because it is 100 years from now. My daughter would have passed out and gone and settled in some, I don't know, some better place or whatever. So that's the reason I might not care much. But look at what's happening in Maldives.
Yes,
Half of Maldives is underwater. The
yes,
school, there was this very tragic photograph of a school which was already inundated
yes.
by water. I mean, just look at what is the future for the students out there. What is the future of the country out there? I mean, just because they're a very small nation and they're not contributing to the GDP or economy of the world or whatever it is, we don't tend to care. I mean,
Yeah,
some way we're losing humanity per se
yeah, you
with
really nailed
in
it,
this
huh?
consumeristic approach that we have, and the thing of becoming the biggest and the greatest of the countries. We're losing that
We are
humanity.
in the
What's
race,
happening?
race.
What's
We are in the
happening?
race to destroy the planet, actually, in terms of, in the name of development. It is
Yeah,
so ironic. But
it's sad.
let me just invite Jack to really engage with you for some
Sure.
Q&A or comments. Jack, would you like to unmute yourself, because I see some points in the chat box.
Okay,
Hi.
see, I've unmuted, so now I can talk to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, Rakesh. Your lecture, your talk, and your illustrations and the video are absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Things
Thanks a lot.
read about, I have now seen, and I know you've been there in the Himalayas and in the great Southern Ocean, the roaring 40s, the howling 50s, and the screaming 60s.
Yeah.
Some very good points that we need to be much more aware. And I think Mansee has raised the same question. How do scientists like yourself, and to a lesser extent myself, how do we get the vast majority of people to become aware? You mentioned COVID-19, and that's a very important example where
Yeah.
while, and for most of the time, governments listened to the science. Now, there was always some crazy people out there who said, oh no, COVID-19 is a plot to kill us all or to put some strange people in power. We'll always get that. There are climate deniers, to my horror, still in the world.
Yes.
Climate deniers in positions of power.
Absolutely.
And of course, as we've seen in COP28, the oil industry, we very big fist and trying to stop the world becoming much better at reducing our carbon emissions, which we've got to do absolutely and much more quickly. I don't know if you follow James Hansen, Rakesh. He's an American scientist, and he publishes quite a lot of papers on the whole issue of how fast we've got to reduce our CO2 emissions globally, everywhere. And so it's a great discussion we've had, and thank you very much for letting me in. Mansee and Monami and Rakesh, it was through an Irish woman who is part of this group, I think. I'm just trying to remember her name now. I met her for the first time only a short while ago. She's an artist, and she told me about this group, and I thought, well, look, I will join up.
Michelle Boyle. Yeah, a small world. So she came as our Friday Water Art session, and she showed her artwork to us. So yeah, it's a small world, and that's what we are doing at W4W, connecting people from left, right, and center. So may I invite, thanks, Jack. May I invite Monami to raise her question, and also then I see if there is anything in the chat box, or if yes, go
Maybe
ahead.
if I can just
Please,
just to take cue from Jack's point. I mean, first of all, thanks a lot for the comment, Jack. I mean, I always tell this to people also. COVID-19, although the pandemic and the horrific issues that we had, we lost a lot of people. I know myself, I lost a couple of known relatives and friends during the pandemic out there. But one great thing that COVID-19 taught us, which I wish we can just amplify, is just that, that all the countries came together to fight this. It was not that, it's happening in the US, so why should India bother? Or if it's happening in India, why should, say, European countries bother, or something like that? We all came together, and within 2 years, we kind of worked together to defeat it. Whether it was in terms of vaccination, whether it was in terms of policy, a lot of red tape was cut in just getting things going around and things. So we have an example, and it can be done. I don't know, why are we not doing this when it comes to climate issues?
Climate is distant. Climate change is distant.
So I always keep telling, we have this knee-jerk policy issue, wherein like COVID-19 is like a heart attack. I mean, you get it and you just run to a casualty or whatever and just get an angiography done, or put up a stent or something like that, and you're saved. Whereas climate change is like a diabetic issue. It's there and it will slowly kill you. It will kill you for sure. But you are just trying to, put in some insulin or something, or change your habit or something, but it was going to kill you. We're not doing anything to protect ourselves from this horrific diabetic issue.
Jerk.
So
as you
it's
might say.
we just want to we wait till the end, and that is my problem. Why do we wait till the end? And I just hope things.
You raised a very
So
important point
in
here,
in
Rakesh.
fact, what I will just do is I just have my last video which I would just want
Please
to
go ahead.
show.
Please go ahead.
It talks just about this, and why I say this is because I end my film also with a question.
Our world is changing, and we are on the brink of climate crisis. Scientists today are using the latest technology and braving some of the harshest conditions on this planet to investigate these effects of changing climate. To watch few among billions take it upon themselves to face these odds, the greatest of odds in the coming times. Do we act, or do we sit back and let the inevitable unfold? This is the climate challenge.
So,
This is a question also.
so I leave the film also with a question. Now, this question has many folds to it. It's not only for scientists. It's not only for the individuals. It's not only for policymakers. What do we do? Do we act, or do we just sit and let the inevitable, unfold? Because it's not going to. I'm going to survive another 20 years or 50 years or whatever it is, and whatever will happen will happen. Why should जाने दो जो हो रहा है होने दो? I mean, the way we end up, the casual attitude that
Complacency.
I mean, it's okay. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. Why should I bother? So I just leave the film with that particular question for people: do we act, or do we let the inevitable unfold? So, and this question is not only to people; it's also the question to the scientist: are you going to be more vocal? It's
I
a
mean,
question to the
how far they should
policymakers.
go and
Yeah,
bring
it's
a
a question
change.
to the policymakers. Are we going to act? It's a question to the individuals also. That
It
are we
must be
going to do it?
harsh on them, because they are doing so much of hard work, and if they see that things are moving so slow, when they know the climate change is moving now faster than the decisions are moving at every country level, to be honest. But let me
It's
just invite Monami to engage with
sure.
you towards the end. And also, I think, Monami, I hand it over to you to have your questions as well as do the vote of thanks. Yeah. Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you, Rakesh sir, for the wonderful discussion that we had today. It really raised quite a few pertinent questions that we keep on pondering on, but at the same time, we don't act upon as such. So I just had a very basic kind of a question while I was listening to all the discussion. Do you think that the public fund that is like invested in all these scientific expeditions and researches, are they adequate to bring out the message that we are trying to like portray? Is it adequate to bring out the message loud and clear?
So things have changed over time. I mean, before the government fund or the public fund, the taxpayers' money that we talked about used to be given to the scientists, and scientists used to go do their science and publish papers. Now, probably the things have changed. People are becoming more vocal. People, thanks to the technologies, I mean, not technology, the initiatives like the RTI or whatever it is, people have started questioning the funds that have been utilized. So it has become now a mandate for institutions to do outreach. And whatever the discoveries happen or whatever the research happens, it is, especially, I'm just talking in the context of India. It is important that you also spread this information and tell it to people. So things are changing. Again, it is happening at a very slow pace, but it's happening. I'm happy about it, that it's happening. Like when institution commission people like me to go and do these particular things, so it is there, the change is there. When we come out and we put up these kind of films, it has to emphasize, it has to increase, it has to go higher up. Outside in US or other places, when the funds are given, it is mandatory that 10% of that allotted funds is put into taxpayers, I mean, put into outreach, because it is the taxpayers' money. You need to justify that amount. So slowly things are changing, and yes, I'm hoping down the line it will become more effective. And the problem, what I find is the scientist are not the elder scientists. I mean, the older generation of scientists. For them, science communication is a very new thing, and they are not that tech savvy in terms of social media and things. So the younger generation of scientists are becoming very vocal. So things are changing, but it's becoming a bit. It's still slow. We need to just increase the pace.
Yeah. So let's hope that in the future we
Yeah.
all like bind together and we
Yeah.
actually fight against this climate change. Yeah. So thank you very much, Rakesh sir and Mansi ma'am, for this wonderful discussion that we had today. It was really like eye-opening to get to know a lot of facts. For example, we got to know there were 10,000 glaciers in the
Glaciers.
Himalayas. So that's something, staying in India, I mean, we are not very far from the Himalayas, but at the same time, we don't really get all those knowledge every day. So
Think
these were,
vertical ocean.
yes,
Vertical ocean.
yes, exactly, ma'am. So, like facts like these are really heartwarming, like actually threatening to know. These are all like vanishing very fast, and we haven't started acting as of now. We have to, but we haven't. So it's really time that we all buckle up and we start acting. So thank you very much for the session. I now take the opportunity to make the next session announcements. So next Friday.Waters, we invite you to book reading session on January 12th at 5 p.m. IST. In the forthcoming Wednesdays for water session on 10th January at 5 p.m. again, to join us for celebrating the impact of hydroinformatics on our everyday lives, empowering ordinary citizens worldwide as part of International Association of the Study of Commons Asia Water Commons series. The registration link is already shared, so please register and circulate. We will also continue with Monday Munching with Women for Water every Monday, same time, 5 p.m. IST. We also have an exciting Waterfest coming up in February on the 16th and 17th. Please stay tuned for more updates. We thank you for your support and encouragement to make the water conversations meaningful. And once again, thank you all for joining and making these sessions really worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you.